Alright, welcome to my channel. I'm just a random Man United fan on YouTube that's trying to make sense of what my team has become. This is a tough period and a tough place to be for a Man United fan, especially for some of us that have, followed the club for a long time now. For me, I've been a fan for almost 20 years now, and I see things that I just know that makes me want to believe that we're not really that team. Um, so I'm not trying to. This is not a case where I'm just trying to just assume that everything is perfect. This is not a perfect world. Um, Things have definitely moved on from what it used to be in the terms of Ferguson and all those memories of how great things were is no longer the case. I'm 100% aware of that. But I think there's something else that might be happening right now that fans may have a choice in handling or dealing with it as the case may be. So first of all, I want to mention that it's really been a roller coaster in the past few years, trying to support the team. There are times when I have to just take breaks, running into months, just not deciding not to watch the team, just because I know that they are not where they are supposed to be, and it's difficult because the expectation at this club, most fans, especially older fans, kind of know where it's meant to be at, and then even though they realize that it's no longer that club, they still find themselves expecting more than the club or the team currently can provide. And so ideally, this video that I'm making is really to let people that might not be paying attention to become aware of what choices they actually have, that stares them in the face. They need to know that this is actually, they are the period in time where they need to actually decide what path to follow when it comes to supporting Man United. By all means, be a fan. By all means, support the team. By all means, decide, make up your mind on what you want. But know that you also have the grace to definitely, if you are going to be taking breaks, however that may seem to you or however that may look to you, you are also more than welcome. You're not less of a fan because you decide to make some adjustments, because this is real for a lot of people. This is actually real. People get into all sorts of stuff over on the internet just as a result of the outcome of games sometimes. So it's good that you find a way to not just flow and go along with how it's happening on a week-to-week basis, but actually reflect on how things have been going and make your decisions based on the reflections that you've made. Now, there are people that may say that when things were good, it was easier to be a fan and to be a supporter of the club. I agree with that. If things were bad back in that period, I think it would have been easier to handle. And the reason why I say that is not even difficult to figure out. I feel like social media makes it like it hyper focuses on losses, and this is something that you have to deal with. So apart from the game ending and the game, you lost the game, you're not supposed to be losing some games, but because of social media, it's almost always in your front. It's almost always in your face. So you are always seeing that your team is not doing well. And this can have like a kind of impact on you. If you are not very strong mentally, it can actually take a toll on you, as we are seeing with the current players. Now, let's get into the meat of the Omar. I remember when Amorim was appointed as Man United manager a little less than a year ago. It was greeted with a lot of enthusiasm, and people were actually like motivated. They were like, "No, this guy, he can speak well, he can communicate better. He has a defined tactic that he's gonna use. The players have been proven to get better under him, and it seemed like this is the guy that needs to replace someone like Ten Hag, who, yeah, he gave us some titles. He won some trophies with us, but there was still a lot of questions regarding, if he was a long-term manager, and also, results were not really good. And towards the end of his sack, the result were not really good. So most fans would not really miss a Ten Hag, because he had his own issues as well personally, because he's not someone that really can communicate with the press, and there are some things that he says that actually like that sounds annoying, even though it wasn't his intention. English was his probably second or third language, so it was kind of hard for him to get some of those thoughts out, in a better way. So most fans, I would argue that probably were even felt annoyed by some of the things that he said in the media. So I'm just saying that to say that Ten Hag wasn't that sort of manager that you really miss, because of the things that I just mentioned. He didn't really cover himself in glory with how he went about, giving answers to some of those important questions. Being arrogant or saying things like, "Oh, we are the most successful team after Man City." The other teams are not as successful as when we knew that the team wasn't really doing well. Like, you can't just come outside and say those things. But whatever. His time as manager is over. We appointed Amorim, and I was in particular super excited for him to actually be the manager, because I saw a young manager that can communicate, and also that that has a defined pattern, and it's always been in the business of actually developing talent. So I felt like, what could really go wrong? So you're replacing someone that wasn't good with his communication, with someone that has that nailed on, and has been super successful at Sporting Lisbon, and many other teams were actually looking to get him. So what could go wrong? I couldn't even see how anything could go wrong with him. And now, after 10 months in the job, I think that was a big error that the club made in appointing him. I feel like he's a good manager at a wrong time. Amorim is not a bad manager, because if he was a bad manager, we wouldn't even be looking in his direction at all. But he's a good manager at the wrong time at Man United. That's all I can say. And I think it's good to actually cut our losses. At this point, it's good to appoint someone else to take the helm. And why do I say this? Man United is a different club when it comes to media, when it comes to news, when it comes to how things fly around. Man United is actually a team where you need a different level of belief to make it work. You need a different level of strength, mental strength, to actually succeed here. So that's why you see, there are players that leave the club and they immediately become successful after, few weeks at a new club. The environment at Man United is toxic. For you to succeed here, you need to really be on top of your game. And it's not just being skillful. It's not just being good at dribbling. It's not just being good at scoring goals. There are some other qualities that calls you, or that you need to be better or be good at for you to even make it here. Amorim so far has been able to. I can see. So I'm going to talk about some of the pros and some of the cons, things that I've noticed personally. I think that going into the preseason, and after that preseason, I could say that the team actually was fitter. Like, we no longer are that team that would gas out after like 30 minutes in the first half or after the first half, you know, because that was it. A lot of that happened after he took over last year. It wasn't just down to tactics. The players themselves were not really fit. So, that improved, after the preseason and into the first few games of the season. Against Arsenal, we're just very unlucky. Against Fulham, if it wasn't for Bruno that lost his head, that could have been a win. The Grimsby game was the worst outcome I've seen in the history of the club. So I'm not going to speak too much about that. And then the game against Burnley, of course, it was a win. We lost against Man City, and then which was actually a whitewash. Then the game against Chelsea, it was at this point against Chelsea that I personally, started losing faith in him. And the game ended in a win, but there were some things that I saw that made me question his ability as a manager. And there are lots of faces. There are different ways that you can look at this. You can look at this, what do you mean? It's not really like that. We won. You give him a break, and I completely get that. I get that actually. Yeah, I get that. So, but I saw a team that was timid. I saw a team that could not really handle, pressure while at home against a team that once lost all confidence, because as soon as Chelsea had that red card for Robert Sanchez in the 5th minute, they crumbled, which was expected because you have a crowd of 60,000 people chanting against you. You are not on your own turf. It makes sense that they crumble. But for them to regain their confidence just because of a red card to Casemiro was what told me all the story that I needed to know. I'm not judging Amorim simply because his players, not himself, but his players did not turn up or they folded under pressure. But I'm judging it because it's had 10 months. And in 10 months, you're telling me that this is all that you can offer? In 10 months, this is where your team is going to respond on their own turf, leading a game by 2 goals. Chelsea dominated the game from the beginning of the second half to the very end of the second half. Sometimes we could not even string 3 passes together, and then they pick it up and then they are trying to attack us again. They scored 2 goals. One was ruled offside, and the only other shot on target they had was a goal. So it told me that this team is not yet there. Like, the only thing that they are after, the only thing that they are looking for right now is just to ensure that they are not making mistakes at the back, but also they are converting any chances that they get. So that's really what is in their head right now. And no team is going to be able to play or express themselves freely if that is their goal. If your goal is to go into the game and make sure that you're not making mistakes, you're already thinking about every move in your head. So instead of you to do some things naturally, you kind of give it a thought. What are we trying to get? What are we trying to achieve here? Is it possible that this ends up being a mistake? Oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do something. I'm gonna play the safe pass. So players become a lot less risky. So they are just playing based on what they want to avoid rather than what they should be doing. And part of that is due to the pressure that is currently at the club. That's why, again, it takes me back to my first point, which is for you to succeed at Man United, you need to be 100% screwed on. Like, mentally, you need to be there. And this is something that is really difficult to actually express. You can't put a number on it. It's very hard to put a number on mentality. If that was possible, It will just go on, on YouTube or one of these public data and gather information about players that have a mental strength rating, and then get them in as the ideal players that Man United need. You don't have a way to measure that. And even if you did have a way to measure that, the pressure at Man United is entirely different. I've only seen one player make it out alive under pressure at Man United, and the player is Maguire. Maguire was under pressure so intense that I literally saw him exiting. There was no way he was going to be able to make it back, but he was able to do that. I don't know how he was able to do it, but that was something that I was really impressed with. I was impressed by that. So you don't expect every player in this age to be that strong mentally. But the only guaranteed way that I know that you can be able to manage pressure at a club like Man United, the size of Man United, is by actually winning games. I said this in my WhatsApp group towards the end of last season, and I was like, you cannot come back from some things at this club. It's not possible for you to have a ton of bad results and then turn it around just by sheer ability. You almost always would need a form of luck or a form of things just going your way. Maybe ref just like didn't give a penalty that was supposed to go against you, or gave you a penalty where you were not supposed to get one. Something needs to go against you other than what your ability is, for you to actually turn around a bad situation at this club. Going into the season, I knew that the only thing that can save the manager or save the players is just to find a way to get positive results. That did not happen against Arsenal. That actually did not happen against Fulham. Then lost against Grimsby. Actually, against Grimsby, he said it would be good for someone else to take the position of manager, because it was obvious that the players were not doing what he intended or what he was teaching or training them to do. So I would say that was a good pointer. That was the time for them to actually act, but the management kind of like, they glossed over it, and it came to the media and was like, oh, I was just frustrated. This is what happens when I'm not able. This is how I'm gonna be forever. That I'm not gonna change that for anybody. That was my feeling at that moment. It doesn't mean that I hate my players, but this is what it is. So he was already showing signs that it wasn't really that manager that really understood the amount of pressure, the amount of toughness that he needed to deal with the pressure here. So that didn't go well. So then they won the next game against Burnley, and then I think the next game after that was Man City, and then they lost that game, won against Chelsea, and today they lost against Brentford. This team under Amorim has not had a back-to-back win since he became manager. Like I said, the only way for you to get going is to actually have good results. All the YouTube videos that I watched, everybody concluded that it was going to be a win for United, simply because Brentford are not really at that place where they are themselves confident. They were just struggling and trying to get their season going, basically. And because of the requirement to actually get results, and because of the nature of the team that we're facing, it makes sense for a lot of people to predict that we're going to win that game. But like I said, I already had my own conclusion. I drew my conclusion on the team and the manager last week against Chelsea, so I wasn't really confident on us winning that today's game against Brentford. And it so happened that we lost 3-1. Now, this is the old situation, and I'm probably going to break this video into two different categories, so that this doesn't get too long. So the first thing is that what this loss means is that the team is going to have to endure another week of, being grilled in the media and seeing, and this is only just going to add more pressure to an already pressurized situation. So I don't personally believe that they will be able to survive that. I don't see a lot of leaders in that team, and they are not getting results. Now, you can have a lot of people that are not leaders, but if you're getting results, you can build from that. You can also have a bunch of poor players. All your players don't have to be A1 players. They don't all have to be like superstars in each of the positions. But if you're getting results, it's gonna give room and give time for those players to kind of blood in, and they can actually improve their level, because they can clearly see that it was probably a moment of magic from one of those players that they are playing with one of their colleagues that make them win a game. So that translates to them as, okay, I can also be better in this. It's easier for that kind of that kind of improvement to be propagated, just because that everybody around you is better. Everybody's trying to put in their effort, and that guy did, and we're able to win that game from there. It's easier to build on that than having to build from a loss, because when you lose at Man United, it gets talked about all week. You are not training well probably, and then even if you're training well, that thought of you're doing all of this and it's not actually working, it's not turning out to be good, it's just going to keep lingering in your mind, and then it's going to put you under more pressure. The next time you turn out, you are also thinking about, oh, we've lost a lot of points this season. I don't think I want to take too much risk. I just want to make sure that I get this ball from my feet real quick, and I'm able to just get into the flow of how the game actually play out. You no longer stick to the plan, and you no longer are able to focus intently. And this is the reason why I believe that it's for the best that Ruben Amorim is fired. Like I said, not because he's a bad manager, but because he's a good manager at the wrong time. You just need someone that is going to come in and have 100% success. What are your 100% success? It's not just in results. It's not just, oh, you're going to win all the games, but success in terms of gameplay, which has been nowhere near good enough. I know we don't have the right players to play the system. That's the reason why I'm not going so much into the system, because you cannot really say that 3-4-3 is the wrong system when you don't really have the players to do that. And obviously the manager refused to adjust, but you cannot really go by that and say that, oh, 3-4-3 is just terrible. We don't really have the players that can really play that position, because from what I've read and what I understand, in the 3-4-3 system, the wing backs are almost always the most important pieces there. You have Dalot today, and then you have Dogu. I personally don't rate either of them. I think they are bad players. Technically, they are not good players. If your team is relying on, because the 3-4-3 system does not use a midfield. What it does is, in order to build attacks, it combines with a midfielder. So you have a wing back combining with a midfielder, and then they are able to build some patterns also with with the inside forward, number 10, and then maybe the ball ends up being crossed into the box or being passed to the center forward. So the person that is responsible for both defending and attacking is those wing backs. They need to contribute, very deeply throughout the course of the game. Dogu and Dalot are not good for that. There are some passes that basic passes that Dogu is not even able to make. So how can you pin that on Amorim squarely? I think it's wrong. Ahmad also is not good as a wing back. He may be better as an inside 10, but as a wing back, is not really good. He's not really good. He can use the ball better, obviously, but what it takes to play as a wing back effectively, I don't think he has it yet. So I don't want to dwell so much on the formation, because I know that's going to get a lot of people talking and get a lot of different ideas out there. But from what I can see from a manager-player standpoint, I can tell that whatever Amorim is trying to get players to do has not really been working. The team does. So when I talk about 100% success for the incoming manager, I mean things like there's a defined pattern of play. The players are confident on their own ability. The players, understand what it means to play for the club, and know that anything other than anything other than a win is not going to be permitted or tolerated. The team is not playing to avoid mistakes or to convert all chances, because they know that chances are going to come. They are confident enough to know that there will be more chances to come, and they are confident to know that even if they make mistakes, they are going to self-correct, and they are going to score more goals. That's going to end. And this is basically what Liverpool does. Liverpool concede a lot of goals, but they almost always win, apart from today anyways. So you need that, and that comes from the management down to the manager, then to the players. Right now, I know that the management are doing everything it takes to correct everything that's wrong with the club, and they've passed it on to the manager for sure. But I don't see that translated to the team. I don't see that translated to the players that are representing Man United. I think they are not embodying what it means to play for this club. I think they find the task of playing for Man United too tough and too pressurized to succeed. They know that everything is magnified, and they are scared to actually commit or do anything that is risky. In that situation, you can no longer stay with the manager. What you need is a different identity to come in. Someone that is just going to almost like press a reset, in the mind of those players. The players now know that there's a clean slate, and then they can start taking in whatever the new manager, brings in. And I don't know who that manager is. To be honest, I don't know who that manager is. So I can say that yes, I know there's not going to be continuity with the current manager. I know there's a higher chance that things would not work out and he's going to end up being sacked. But actually right now, I don't know who that manager is that would come in, that makes things better. All I prefer managers that I know, I have a club they're managing. So right now, it's even a bigger challenge getting the right manager than actually sacking Amorim, which I know he should be sacked. I just don't know that manager, because the next manager Man United get has to be a manager that has 100% chance of succeeding here. It's not just a manager that is just there trying to see, trying to experiment his idea or trying to see what, how these players really are. Someone that knows how to bring about a win. Someone that's going to, you're not just signing a manager, you're signing someone that is going to bring back the identity of this team. Someone that is going to put that team back in pole position. And, is it going to be long term or short term? I don't know. But I guess that is the job of the management to figure out. But just to say again, you cannot just sign anybody and feel like they're going to do the right job. It's almost not going to work out. It will never work out at a club this size. So I hope they get it right. I hope they get the right manager that is more used to winning, whatever means necessary, than just someone that is waiting to see how things flow. And I think it's also, I feel like it's also more than that. Like it's more than just winning. Ruben Amorim is a great personality. Do we want that? I don't think we want a great personality more than results. So I think in the end, it tilts more towards getting the best result from these players, which I know they are good. These players are not terrible. They are not all terrible all of a sudden. There is, a case to be said that if they come outside Man United, they will play well. So you need a player that can handle that pressure that is on that team and then translate that to the players. Give them that confidence back. I don't think Amorim currently has it. And that is a shame because when he was appointed, I just did not see how it could go wrong. But hopefully the team gets it right, and I'll see you next time.